And thanks for coming back to the channel, guys. I'm going to be taking a look at this really small power station, but I want to go over all of the specs of this. This is actually probably one of the best micro cap solar generators or power stations you can get. But I want to go over all the specs. I want to test it, see if it can do what it says it can do, and bring you along with me to see all of that firsthand. This is the ToGo Power Advanced 550 unit. It's got a 500 watt inverter, 520 watt hour battery, 100 watt solar input. So I'm not sure why they call it the 550 because there aren't really any specs that fit 550. But either way, I want to see how well this does. This would be great for just portable power for like a DC fridge or drones, laptops, stuff like that. So stick around with me. I want to show you this little unit and see how well it does. So first of all, if you don't know what I mean when I say microcap solar generator, I have a link down below to a solar generator comparison chart that I update live. And that way you can get an apples to apples comparison of all the solar generators. There are 6 different categories, all the way from microcap, which is the smallest type of solar generator, all the way up to ultra cap, which can literally run your entire house. So it's not fair to compare a small unit like this to a bigger unit. So I've made those different categories and they're outlined there. You just click the tabs on the bottom of the sheet or on the page, and it'll take you to those different ones. And you can see all of the specs listed there for this. And so I'm not going to go over all of those specs, but like I said, it's a 500 watt pure sine wave inverter. It does have a 100 watt MPPT charge controller and a 520 watt hour lithium ion battery. So about 500 cycles out of this. And those are the main things you need to worry about with this solar generator. That's a very, very simple system. Nothing super fancy at all, except for a wireless charging pad right up top here. You can see the screen. I just turn it on. This is the solar input right here. It also comes with a car charger. And the DC plugs, we have two 5525 barrel plugs, one regulated 12 volt outlet right here, cigarette lighter. We got 3 USB-A and one 60 watt USB-C. And then we've got our 2 120 volt AC outlets here. You're only going to be able to get 500 watts out of these, so don't expect to run a lot of stuff. Now, it comes with a brick charger. These are becoming less common because most of these systems now are coming where they just have the power cable, and this adapter basically is built into it. And I really like that with the newer systems, but the ToGo Power doesn't have that. So it has this big brick, it gets really hot, and it's kind of an inconvenience, but it comes with the wall charger. It does have a car charger as well. It'll charge up in about 5 hours. I don't really use these anymore, but it's really nice when you're on a road trip for a system like this, when you're running something like a DC fridge, because then you can keep this charged up while running your DC equipment or any other equipment for that matter. And then once you turn the car off and you're going and doing stuff or like hiking or whatever, this is still running that equipment inside the vehicle without any issues. So this just helps it stay topped off while you're driving around. And then of course we have our MC4 adapter. This is an 8mm barrel port, very similar to like the Jackery systems, as well as some of the older Bluetti like the EB150, EB240, and such like that. Now it does have a carry handle here that does come in handy, and it does have 2 different lights. It has one here on the side and then one here on the top. Now, I would not classify this for emergency power use. Something like this is going to run a fridge for 2 or 3 hours tops. And so the real application of it being able to accomplish emergency preparedness, which the most common thing people run is a fridge and freezer. This can do it technically, but I would not recommend it. It's simply not going to work how you want it to work. It just doesn't work that way. But the biggest thing I want to test right now is, can it run 500 watts consistently? And then how well does it recharge from solar? Those are the big things I like to do. Now, you're not commonly going to be running 500 watts continuously. So really the bottom line is if it can do it for 15 minutes nonstop, then it's probably going to be able to do it all the way until the battery's empty. And I don't know what you'd be running that hard that long anyway off a system like this. So let's go ahead and jump right into that test. Now, this is actually one thing I like about this system is more and more commonly, even with like the EcoFlow, Bluetti, all of those systems, they don't really show their idle power consumption rate, which is a really big deal that most people don't even consider. Idle power consumption is just how much power does this use in order to have the inverter turned on. An inverter is going to be converting DC battery power to AC outlet power. And a converter, like you would see on an RV, is where you take AC power and convert it back to DC power. But here we're using the inverter and it's only using 8.5, 9 watts roughly. So if the idle power consumption is extremely high, like on the Bluetti systems, which is why I don't like them, then you're going to be using a bunch of extra battery power just to have the system turned on, which is really a big waste. I'm going to go ahead and get 500 watts draw on this now. I have 5 100-watt light bulbs running, and it's saying it's using 560 watts in order to run them. So that's actually pretty surprising. The good news is it's running it without any issues at all, but it already turned off. It's not going to be able to run that for very long. So let me get that fixed. Perfect, we're really close here. So I'm going to go ahead and let this run. If it runs for about 15 minutes, then we know it's good to go. All right, it has been 15 minutes right here. Absolutely no issues at all. The fan has been blowing. It is not a super loud fan, but it is definitely audible. But overall, the unit's still very cool to the touch, and so I'm not worried about it overheating at all. The biggest issue is the charge parameter. As usual with pretty much every single one of these solar generators and power stations, it's got 12 to 28 volts, which is great because you can use a 12 volt or even possibly a 24 volt panel, but we don't know the amperage at how many amps it's going to let through on the charge controller. So without knowing that, it's really hard to know the best way to set this up, but I'm going to connect about 200 watts to this, even though the max solar input is only 100 watts. So for some reason, my mic stopped working, but you can see I've got 2 different solar panel configurations here. One is the EcoFlow 220 watt bifacial solar panel. So this actually has an extra solar panel on the back side of it that captures extra light to make even more power. And then I've got the rigid 100 panels from poweredportablesolar.com. These are the best 100 watt panels that I've been using, and so I want to test them here on this ToGo Power. So what I did is I connected it up to my watt meter and then connected it up to the ToGo Power so I could see exactly how many volts and amps are coming into it. But as I tried to plug it in, nothing was happening on the ToGo Power, and that was a little frustrating because I could clearly see power coming in on the watt meter and absolutely nothing going in to the unit itself. So what I ended up doing is disconnecting the watt meter and just plugging it directly into the ToGo Power, and then I was able to start getting a charge. And with the EcoFlow solar panel, which should have been giving the most amount of power in this configuration, was only putting in 53 watts. So then I went ahead and changed it to the 100 watt panels that were connected in parallel, and I got a little bit more input at 63 watts, but still nothing close to the 100 watts it's supposed to have. And then I went ahead and disconnected those and just connected one 100 watt panel, and then I was getting 57 watts into it. So we can see we're not getting anywhere near the 100 watts rated input for this solar generator, which is not a good sign for the charge controller. I wanted to do one more test, so I set up a 210 watt solar panel that it's a 12 volt panel, so I knew I was within the charge parameter. Went ahead and connected it and eventually got it up to 68 watts. But then what I found out is if I shade the solar panel a little bit, you can see the wattage goes down to 45 watts. I was covering just a small section of the solar panel. And then I come back to the ToGo Power and the wattage does not go back up. And to prove this point, I made sure to take video showing that the panel was not being shaded and that the ToGo Power was indeed not going back up to the higher wattage. So for some reason, there is some big concerns here in this charge controller. So we can see this has no problem getting up to almost 100 watts right here, but the charge controller will not work for some reason with those solar panels. Seriously, those 100 watt panels have been the best panels I've used. The EcoFlow 220 watt bifacial panel has been one of the best panels I've used as well. And then even that 210 watt larger panel, seriously, I don't know what's going on with this, especially for the fact that once I covered part of the cells on the solar panel and then re-exposed it back to sun, it would not go back up as far as the charge goes. So that was really, really interesting. I've actually never seen a solar generator or a power station do that before. So that's really unfortunate that it did that. So all in all, as far as just a power bank that you could take and have portable with you, yeah, I think it's a good unit. Do I think that there are other better units? This is like $360 or something like that. Right now it's on sale, I believe. And it's hard to get something of this capacity at that price. So I don't know, guys. I really don't think this is one I would recommend. That's unfortunate. It seemed really good at first. Inverter's good, battery capacity good, but solar rechargeability, definitely not good at all. So for that reason, I'm going to say it's not top recommended. But if you just need some portable power, then it may work if you're not really looking to do any solar charging. So please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will do lots more videos on lots more systems coming out. I have some really, really exciting systems coming out. as well as like some emergency preparedness everyday carry, like what I carry on my person on a day-to-day basis to make sure I'm ready for whatever situation. I'm actually going to be doing some more training here really soon, so hopefully you guys will find that entertaining and helpful. So make sure you stay tuned. Thank you so much for being here. Be prepared. Thank you so much to all of my Patreon subscribers. If you want to get direct access to me, you can go to patreon.com/minutemanprep and become a contributor, and you and I can chat. We'll talk about whatever preparedness stuff you want. So thank you again for being here. I will see you guys in the next video.